you ready to be in the spotlight? Are you ready to share your story with the world? Well, Snails with No Shells is where you need to be. Available on all digital platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door.
Where did we go wrong?
Greetings, beautiful ones. I am Miss BJ Martin, and this is Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. That's my only rule. All right, it's good to be here again with you, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, I have an amazing guest. I'm going to bring him to the stage. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna bring him on out so you guys could check him out. AB Bracewell.
Hey BJ, how you doing? How you doing?
I am well. How are you, AB?
I'm doing great. I cannot complain. It's a rainy day up here in Philadelphia, but it's still a beautiful one. So
Yes, raining down here in Georgia, but hey, like I said, what can we do? Get our
yeah,
umbrella, keep it pushing, right?
exactly.
And yes, and I'm thank you for joining me. I know you've been busy with this book. We're going to talk about it in a minute. So let me get into it. Let's get into it.
Okay.
AB, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, as you said, my name is AB Bracewell. I am a therapist by profession. I am also a three-time author. I just recently released my third book, which is entitled The Sexual Miseducation of Black Men in America. I know it's a long title, but I needed to squeeze all of that in there. I'm a father. I have a 14-year-old son, which was the inspiration behind the book. I've been in the field of psychotherapy for about 21 years now. I'm getting old. I'm a lot older than I look. So I've been in the field about 21 years, working with individuals, couples, children, families. And my main goal and my passion is just helping people to develop healthier relationships, overcome some of those toxic connections that they have, some of the trauma, some of the generational curses that are passed down, and just develop happier and healthier relationships, whether it's in the couples or with family, between mom and dad, parent and child. I'm all for building families and building communities.
Awesome. Wow, 21 years. That's a full-blown adult.
Yeah.
Man, 21 years. That is dedication. Man.
You're making me feel older. I just said I was 20 years. It's been a while.
Look, now you're not getting older. You just getting, they say fine. We all just getting finer as time goes on, just like fine wine. That's for men and women.
Right, I agree.
Yes. Okay, so let's go back before all of the authoring and all of the counseling. Where are you from? Where were you born and raised?
I was actually born here in Philadelphia, and I was raised up in North Jersey. But my parents are from West Africa, Liberia. So
Really?
yeah, so I'm first generation born, and really it was interesting. I just was learning some very interesting history about my family, about some ancestors. For those that don't know, Liberia was one of the countries that free slaves were sent back to, back in the 1800s. And we did our DNA and our ancestry check. So some of our ancestors was slaves here at one point, and when it was freed, they were sent back to Liberia, and they settled in this one town, and that is where all of my family is from. My mom, my dad, aunts, uncles, and everybody. And then they migrated back to the United States in the 70s, and this is where I was born and my siblings. So I was born here, raised in Jersey, but currently been living in Philly for quite some time.
Okay, and so I'm gonna come back to that. So you saying, so you know where your actual roots are from. So how does that make you feel? Because there are so many of us in the United States who have no idea where we come from. We have no idea. We just know we're here. We know our great grandparents and maybe their parents, and that's like the furthest that we can go back. How does that feel for you to like know that you know that you know? How does that
Yeah,
feel?
it does definitely gives a sense of identity,
Mhm.
a sense of pride just to have that self knowledge of, where my ancestors, just their whole travel and their migration from one continent to another. So, and to be honest, this is some knowledge that I just recently started to stumble upon. Um,
Mhm.
so, it feels good. Like I said, give me some pride, or give me that sense of identity, um,
Mhm.
and also gives me more of a connection to both continents. I would say, just to know that some of my ancestors were freed slaves that were sent back to Liberia and settled, and then my parents migrated back. It gives me more of a connection to both places. Like, wow, it could have been anyone who ancestors, weren't sent back to the continent of Africa to settle. And my lineage could have started like right here. I mean, or my I should say my self awareness could have started right here because all of our lineage started back in Africa. If you're black,
Right. Wow, that's exciting. That's
yeah,
exciting. You on a whole new journey now.
yeah. Learn. I'm still learning. As old as I am, still learning some stuff about my history, about my past, about my family. So yeah, so
Yeah,
it's.
that's dope.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And it's good to learn when you're actually seeking the knowledge. Because even when you're young, you hear some stuff about your family, your past, but it usually came out in arguments. It came out when it was emotional. I did, with your parents talking about the trauma that they went through, but I didn't get a lot of, just passed down information about family. So now
Right.
that I'm actually seeking this information out just to gain knowledge and understanding, it feels a lot better.
Okay. All right. I love it. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna get back to you and your childhood. What was it like growing up in Jersey?
Oh, it was different. It was a mixture. I always felt like I was torn between two worlds. Um,
Hmm.
Having grown up in a Liberian culture, but also growing up in an African American culture, so never feeling totally accepted in either one. Of course, I'm accepted in my family, but on one side you might be too Americanized, and then
Hmm.
on the other side, you're too African. So you're
Hmm.
always, it's kind of that search for, okay, where do I fit in? But I had a great childhood. Grew up my mom and my dad in a home. They were very protective, very very protective of me and my siblings, because they were immigrants to the United States and not aware of all the cultural things and things that's going on in society. They will be very protective over the kids, just to keep us safe. And so I grew up with my siblings, my parents. They kept us in church. Uh,
Hmm.
Anywhere you would see my mom, you'll see me and my brothers and sisters right behind her. So they try to provide us with a great education. And, as of course I got older, got more independent, I start to step out and explore a little bit more. Maybe getting a little bit trouble here and there, but I never stepped too far away from what my parents instilled in me. So yeah,
Hmm.
I had a great childhood. Great childhood.
Hmm. Okay, so what would be something you said? So you grow up with the Liberian culture in your home. Like, what would be something that y'all would do that would be different than what Americans would do?
Well, it's just really to start as simple with the way we talk, the accent. I may
Hmm.
not have a strong accent, but my parents had a strong accent. So
Hmm.
immediately, you're different just when you open your mouth and say words. But then there's of course, the foods, and sometimes the way we dress. My mom would put on, the African attire on us when we're
Mhm.
going out to maybe church or going to weddings or going to special occasions. So and just other little cultural things about with family you that is identifiably different from your friends in the neighborhood. So
Mhm.
it was sometimes it's probably small things, but I mean, I guess as a child, it seems big when you're trying to fit in and you're trying to be cool and you're trying to be accepted, and then you
Right.
have your parents yelling down the street in their heavy accent, and then you trying
Right.
to yeah. So it stands out. Back then it was embarrassing, but right now, as I look back as an adult, I'm happy the way we grew up.
Yeah, yeah, and I can imagine because growing up, when we were growing up, we had those rules, be on when the street lights came on, and to be in the house was punishment. Like nobody want to stay in the house, stay in the house, So I can imagine it was hard enough being a kid growing up here in America, period. So I can imagine like double for you, being
Mhm.
American and then Liberian too, growing up here. So, um, yeah, I can only imagine how that was for
Yeah.
you. And you
Yeah,
said yes.
interesting. Very interesting. It was interesting, and we didn't have like a huge Liberian community where I grew up in. So
Mhm.
just trying to navigate friendships and socialization, relationships, things like that. Always was a journey. Always.
Okay. Okay. So do y'all do the jollof rice, or is that Nigerian?
Oh no, that's Liberian. Got the best.
That's a
Liberians got the best jello of rice.
oh, you say y'all heard him now. He
Yeah,
said like
we got
make
the
the best
best.
jollof. I didn't say that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So now we do the
Oh,
jollof rice and we got all types of dishes. Cassava leaf is some of my best. Palm butter.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I still eat the food. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how to cook it, but
Uh-huh.
I know how to find it and eat it. I'll go ahead.
Yes. Okay, that's interesting too, because like that's across the board. Every African that I meet, no matter where they're from, that jollof rice and the
Hmm.
egusi soup. I don't know if that might be something
I
in
think that's
particular.
probably more Nigerian.
Nigerian,
Yeah,
okay.
mhm.
But
But
everybody has some type of dumpling.
yep, yep,
Everybody.
yep. All the,
Uh-huh.
I like it too.
Jamaicans.
I eat their food too. Uh,
Yeah, that's right. Me too. Okay, all right. So, AB, what did you want to be when you grew up?
uh, oddly enough, somewhere and somehow I've always felt like I wanted to be a psychologist. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah, from a very young age. And I know I have two stories. One is a very childlike and immature, and one is just I guess very that's connected to my family. So
Okay.
I was a middle child growing up. So in my household, especially between my mom and dad, there was always a lot of conflict. There was a lot of arguments growing up in my household, and I always just felt like I was like the one in the middle trying to create peace, whether it was between my mom and my dad, my brother and sister, or I always felt like I was the one that knew how to balance and navigate
Mhm.
between an older sibling and a younger sibling. I can hang out with my older brother, but still come home and play with my younger sister. And be right in the middle. So that put me in a mindset, but like I always felt like I was a mediator. I always
Mm.
felt like I was a person that can bring people together or try to heal relationships. So from there, when I think back, I feel like, okay, I think the seed was planted a long time ago in my mind as far as being a therapist. But then there's some, as a child, I always felt like if I had any power in the world, would be the power to read minds. And for some reason, I thought psychologists knew how to read people's minds and control their thoughts. So that was another reason. That was the more childlike reason why I said, I think I'm gonna be a psychologist when I get older. I always wanted to. When people ask, "And what power you would have?" I would never say I wanted to fly or I wanted to run fast or I wanted to be the strongest. I always wanted to have the power to control people's minds. And my childlike thinking thought that's what psychologists did.
That is the cutest thing. I mean, it makes sense. Well, yeah, that's the first time I've gotten that answer. I've gotten all kind. Of course, I always get like nurse. I get teacher. I got a astronaut. That was pretty interesting, and I got somebody to want to be a sniper.
Oh,
Those probably my most two interesting ones. So,
wanted to grow up to be a sniper. That's interesting.
right. So okay, so yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So so how did you get into counseling? Was that something that you like once you graduated from high school, did you go straight into that field, or how did you get into that? Because you've been doing that for a while.
Yeah. It's once I started college, in my undergrad, I started to pursue the field. I majored in psychology, in undergrad at Temple University here in Philadelphia, and then after I graduated um, from Temple, I started to work in the field as just a bachelor's level clinician or bachelor's level worker, and then I later on went to Chestnut Hill College and got my master's degree. I'm still working in the field. I was working in schools, helping kids with behavioral modification, kids that'll get diagnosed with different things, ADHD, ODD, attachment disorders, things of that nature. I was the individual that will help implement certain interventions to help the kids modify and improve their behaviors. But then I went on to graduate school, got my graduate degree, and stepped into the role of being a therapist.
Wow. And you say that oh, I did this, like it was just so simple. I did this and I did this and I did this. And so now you know what I'm saying? What was that journey like? Oh my goodness.
Oh, well, that my journey was a long journey. It was a long journey. I was never like one of those straight A students. I just was determined and I was diligent and I never gave up. But yeah, it took me some years to even finish undergrad. Uh,
Mhm,
I was one of those senior, what they call it, super seniors. I was one of
mhm,
those super seniors. So, um, but I did finish, got my undergrad degree, and luckily enough, here in Philadelphia, the mental health field is pretty big. There's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of mental health providers. So finding a job in the field here in Philadelphia is not that difficult. But I guess the down part about that is also there's a lot of people that's not really dedicated to the work, but still find work in this field. So because it's plentiful. When I started working there, working with kids in schools, faced a lot of, it's Philadelphia school district. So we faced a lot of stuff. Find myself breaking up fights, getting
mhm.
hit.
Got hit?
Well,
No, AB.
oh well, hey, but you gotta understand you're dealing with kids that have some very extreme behavioral issues. So, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to step in the middle and tell them to stop or trying to change their direction. So, aggression can go from another student or a teacher to me because I'm the one that's trying to stop what's going on. So, oh yeah, so getting hit, having to restrain kids that are just having some type of mental health breakdown. So
Mhm.
you have to go to work in some sneakers and a sweatsuit because you never know what you might run into or encounter on that day. But it was definitely rewarding. I think working with kids in the school is what really led me to go back to grad school and get my graduate degree because I realized like I'm here trying to change behaviors in school, but these children they come from a community, they come from a family, and no matter what I do here in school, they have to go back to that family, they have to go back to that community, and they have an even bigger influence on them. So
Mhm.
I started to become more interested in family work, relationship work. Now, how can I help this family develop new skills, develop new ways of thinking, develop a new cycle for themselves. So it doesn't only improve their relationships, but it can improve the child's relationship as well. So of course, so then I went back to grad school and I took it from there.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. See, I love having these conversations with you guys because oh my gosh, I learned so much, and I really see where you stand and what value that you hold and what value you bring to the community. This is why it's so important that we share this information. We share these platforms so that people can see what's really going on outside of TV and Netflix and all that. We have real people, real that are doing real things that are really trying to make a difference out here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so right now, are you still working with children today?
Yes, I still work with children today, but more in the capacity when I'm doing family therapy.
Mm.
So I still work with children. Just my passion has led more towards family and relationships, but you can't take the kids out once you're working with families. So yes, and in I guess my mentoring things of that nature is
Mm-hmm.
where I more work with kids.
Mm-hmm.
So working with young men in the community, working. I still do some work with a crisis program here in Philadelphia. So when
Okay.
kids go into crisis, I do some work with them. But my passion and my desire is really with couples and the entire family system.
Right. And I mean, and that makes sense because if you can get the parents right, if we can get them together, then the children they'll be fine.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that makes sense. But yeah, yeah.
So
Oh wow.
that that's the hope. That's the hope.
Right. Right.
You know, society has a major influence on kids as well. So
Mm,
that's why I'm big on community based programs to
yes.
help with kids as well. After school programs, all of those things
Mm-hmm.
helps because parents have it hard these days because it's just a major influence from outside
Yes.
society, social media, all types of things. So
Right.
it really takes a village when they say it.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It does. And every time outside of the home, it does. It takes all of us. It really does. And I was telling a friend the other day, we were talking about influences in our lives growing up. And I was saying, your peers have the greatest influence on you
Yeah.
when you're growing up. Your peers, your friends, right? Because they don't want they put that peer pressure on you. You gonna do this or I'm doing this. You come on, So um and even it's funny because we talk about tell our daughters or whatever, like, yeah, watch out for those boys, but shoot, now you got to tell them watch out for your little girlfriends because sometimes they be kind of wild, you know what I mean? So it's like, dang, you got to kind of watch out for everybody, but you don't want your kids growing up in fear because there are certain things they have to deal with to be able to build character and to those certain lessons they have to learn. But yes, society, it's just so different. It's just so different. Once internet got introduced to our lives, it's just been something. It's just, I don't know, just did a whole 180. You know what I'm saying? So and it has its good points. It has its good points. There's some good things about it, but then on the flip side, especially when it comes with our children, it's like, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially when at a certain stage of life, a certain stage of childhood, when you start going into that adolescent stage, like your friends, your reputation, being socially accepted, it becomes more important than what your parents' word is. Like when you're younger, when you're a
Mm,
toddler, or in those elementary school age, your parents, they're the kings and the queens of the world. You look up to them. But
mm-mm.
as they move into those teenage years, friends are so influential. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Whew, man. All right. Well, look, we're gonna take a pause for the cause. We're gonna take a break. You give a shout out to tonight's episode of Snails with No Shells, and we'll be right back.
Global Hits Radio is your 24-hour diverse listening option all day, all night. R&B, smooth jazz, and hip-hop is Global Hits Radio. That's hits with a Z. This a day-to-day thing, not an everyday thing. Hey, y'all, it's Jeffrey Charles, Atlanta's own, inviting you to my second annual all-white party. Me performing live my new single, Put It On You. That's right, along with my Ultimate Sound Band and Baby Doll. We're going to turn it out on Saturday, August 19th at Jam Rock South, 8562 Terra Boulevard in Jonesboro. Doors open at 6:30 p.m., showtime at 8 o'clock with DJ and dancing afterwards. Great food, great fun, lots of folks, and an all-white affair. Gonna be looking for you to stop on through. For tickets, call 404-790-7875. Once again, tickets 404-790-7875. $20 in advance and $30 the day of the show. It's me, Jeffrey Charles, Atlanta's own Baby Doll, and the Ultimate Sound Band performing live. That's right, some of your favorite songs, including my own. See you August 19th. $20 in advance tickets, $30 at the door. It's the Jeffrey Charles all-white affair. Looking to see you on Saturday, August 19th.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are back. We had to take a pause for the cause. Give a shout out for tonight's episode of Snails and No Shells. We have the Own It magazine, and we have Global Hits Radio. That's Global Hits Radio. That's hits with a Z. All right, all right. So on this part of the show, we need to get into what we're really here for. AB, first of all, you said you've written 3 books, right? 3-time author, yes. So I want to ask you, what inspired you to become an author?
Wow. I still don't even look at myself as an author sometimes. I really look at myself as a guy that has some thoughts and I write them down. But I guess after 3 books, I guess I can consider myself an author. But it's just really a lot. Like my first book really started off as me just journaling my thoughts, journaling my feelings. And then as I looked over it, after a year, I'm looking at it like this can actually be a book. I believe this can help some people from my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own experiences. So I started to explore, how to write a book or how to put this together and present it as a book. So I never thought myself to be an author, but as I write more, I'm starting to. I really love it. It's a great way for me to communicate my thoughts. I think that's the best way I actually communicate my thoughts. I'm actually a more of an introvert individual, so writing is my way of communication and expression. So doing these interviews and speaking engagements, it really stretches me and take me out of my comfort zone. But I can write for days.
Wow. So he said he's so look, he's just full of humility. I'm just a guy with some thoughts. Really, AB, you have a lot of thoughts.
What we all do. I just one that writes them down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So did you do like in school, like in elementary school or middle school or anything like high school? Were you into writing then? Or is it something
Um,
kind of new?
it's pretty new. I mean, when I was younger, I would write like poetry. I
Okay.
would, poetry. I even tried my hand at writing raps and things of that nature.
Hmm.
But I never looked at myself as like a story writer or a book writer. But I was into creative writings now that I think of it. So, but it wasn't until well into my adulthood till I started picking it up again and started writing, journaling, things of that nature. But yeah, it was never a real aspiration of mine to author the 3 books. But now that I'm doing it, I think I'm gonna keep on going.
Yeah, you might as well. All right, so let's talk about the book we're talking about today. The book today, the book that's rocking the charts. Let's talk about that. What's the title of that book?
The sexual miseducation of Black men in America.
I love that. The sexual miseducation of Black men in America.
Mhm.
Okay, so what inspired this particular book?
Oh wow, so much, so much. Um, the number one inspiration for this book is really my son. Um, my son is hitting that stage that I was just talking about, that adolescent stage. He's 14. And as I look out and look at our community, look at the people the families that I work with, look on the internet, social media, TV, I see and look at my own life. So let me not ignore that. And look at my own life growing up, and I explore some of the things that I've learned about sex, the things that I've learned about relationships, the lessons that we learned about women, and how that impacted the way I looked at myself and the way I treated people, and particularly women, and how some of those unhealthy and toxic lessons that we learn as men affects our entire community. It doesn't just affect the woman that we play around with. It affects children. It affects our sons, our daughters, our nieces and nephews. It affects everyone. So that was my inspiration, really, because I interviewed over 100 guys for this book, and
Mm,
my question was always, where did you learn about sex? And
mm,
100% of them would say that they did not learn it from a credible or reliable source. They didn't learn it from their father, didn't learn it from a uncle. Most of them learned it from pornography. They learned about sex from the neighborhood, uh, older guys on the block or their peers. The sexual abuse. They learned it from the music and the music video. So I felt that it
mm.
was very important for me to explore these things that we've learned, explored what we've learned and how it affects us, and also give some advice and some tips on how to overcome the impact that our sexual miseducation has had on us as men.
Ooh, wow, 100 men.
Yeah, and since the book release is well over 100 now, but in preparation of writing the book, I've interviewed, talked to, sat down with 100 guys.
Wow, and the answer was pretty much the same. We're consistent.
Yes,
Yeah,
within those categories of things,
yeah.
I can tell you that in maybe 0.5% of the men that I spoke to said that they sat down with a credible man or
Mm,
parent and learn proper ways of handling their sexuality. But the vast majority learned it from the things I named,
yeah.
some toxic, some unhealthy, some unqualified teachers about sex.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting, but not surprising.
Mhm.
but very interesting. The percentage. Wow. So this book is it's gonna help with some major healing. I feel. Um, that's how I feel. AB, like this is gonna be one of those healing books. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like, but I think it is. I think it is because I don't even know if people even think that they've been miseducated about those
Oh,
type of things. They just think that it's a part of life. This is how this is what they know. So this is how it's supposed to be, and it's not. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I love
That's,
it. Tell me a little more about the book. Let's talk.
yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about
I
that.
mean,
I'm
just to
excited.
speak on what you're saying, like even in the book, I say that I know that this book is going to offend some people.
Mm-hmm.
But my goal is not to unveil or to tell any deep dark secrets of any man code, but my goal is to really help the next generation of men. I really want them to learn how to measure manhood, opposed to measuring it by the things that we learned growing up, and that's how many women you slept with, how many women you got, or how well you can perform in the bedroom, things of that nature. That's how we were taught to measure our manhood. So my goal is to help younger men first, and then I also have a goal to help parents. Um, I work with a lot of single mothers that's raising sons, and they are in need of knowing what's in this book, knowing the influences that's out there, and the pressures and the challenges, and the hurdles that their young sons or their young nephews or whoever they're raising face every single day, and it starts very young. A lot of parents might think, if they start talking to their son at the age of 14, 15, that they've done their job with giving him education on sex. But there's
Mm-hmm.
kids in middle school, that have like a 5 year head start on you, that has started giving some misinformation because they were misguided. They followed some unqualified uh, men or unqualified people on what sex is, and now they're in school talking about it with your son. So yeah, so I also want to help parents with this book, to instill some of those lessons in them. And of course, I want to help men. I truly believe that casual sex is one of the biggest distractions for us men. I
Mm-hmm.
think it distracts us from our goals. It
Mm-hmm.
distracts us from accomplishing a lot of things in life that we want to and need to accomplish. And I think it takes us off of our path of our purpose. So I think if we can be able to develop the discipline, if we're able
Yeah.
to look at our own behaviors and make a change, I think that won't only make an impact in our life, but it'll make an impact in the life of our children and our entire community.
Yes, and I agree with that. When we had discussions all the time when we talk about um how just having sex it is very distracting. It's very distracting, and it does keep you off your path. And talk about how and even for women, it's distracting too. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we were younger, had we, we say idle, we had this idle time is a devil's workshop. When you don't have nothing to do, if you don't have parents that's really on you, or have you in some type of sports or have you in some type of activity, you you pretty much are not doing anything. If you're in a single parent home, if your mom, she might not get off till 5, she might not get home till 7, 8 o'clock at night, or whatever the case may be. So you have all this free time
Mm-hmm.
just to get into some mess.
Yeah.
And we're talking, man, AB, I'm gonna have you back because this is very important because we need our men to heal so bad so that we can come together and heal. And you women do a little bit of our healing work, you do some of yours, and we can come together and finish healing and just and it's gonna change the world. I truly believe that. And so we talk about um how boys don't get their parents or mothers or don't tell them, just like we telling our girls like you're special, you should wait for that. We don't tell our boys that, like you are special. I tell my son, I have a 14-year-old too, but he's homeschooled, so yeah, I have a little more control over that.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
He doesn't have any peers to influence him. So right now, but I tell him, we talk about those type of things. And I tell him, that you should wait, because you are special. She needs to be worth. This is a. Y'all get mad at me if y'all want to. She needs to be worthy of you. I tell him this because I think it's important. I think our girls and our boys should grow up and believe that and know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I don't think we often talk about how men or boys look at women as sexual objects, and we do in a lot of cases. But I don't think we, as men, as young men, I don't think we look at ourselves and see how that uh, in how that results in us looking at ourselves as sexual objects, because if we get to the point where we feel like that's all we actually have to offer. That's the first
Mhm.
thing. That's how we walk into the door, trying to get sex, trying to offer sex. You hear the stories about guys just sending penis pics, random penis pics to women, because
Yeah.
we look at ourselves as sexual objects, because I would say, as black men, I'm trying to get my thoughts right. As black men,
Mhm.
we seem to put so much value on that piece of us, and
Mhm.
we ignore so like a lot of the character building, the integrity, the honesty, the faithfulness, the things that really build your character as a man. And we put so much value on how well we perform in the bedroom, how many women we can get,
Mhm.
and that destroys our identity. There's a part in the book where I'm speaking about how, when you look at the different statistics, if you look at the different rankings, among the different races of men, um, and how us as black men rank so close to the bottom
Mm.
of so many different uh, rankings, whether it's education, whether it's the amount of money that we earn. We always tend to be at the bottom, but there's one ranking that we wear with a badge of honor, and that's how well we perform in the bedroom, how big we are, how
Right.
good our stroke is, things of that nature.
Mhm.
And so when I say we look at ourselves as a sexual object, that's it right there. And we don't only look at ourselves as a sexual object. There's so many other cultures and communities that look at black men as that, and that has a long history that goes way back to slavery. Um, it,
Mhm.
has, it goes long way back to slavery. Like, back in slavery, a man was judged, or his value was based on the size of his genitals, because the belief was the bigger your genitals, the more slaves you can produce.
Oh
So,
wow.
he was more valuable. Um, his value was also based on the amount of slaves that he could impregnate. They actually had quotas back then. Like,
Mm.
at the age of 14, 15, um, you, the slave master will force you to have sex with women so you
Right.
can produce more slaves. And if
Mm.
you could not produce a certain quota, you'll get punished for that. So, that's
Mm.
that stuff is, when you talk about generational curses and generational lessons. I think
Mhm.
things like that are passed down, from
Yeah.
generation to generation, and even now in 2023, we are still measuring our value and our manhood, with things that was used against us in slavery.
Wow. Do you think low self-esteem plays a part in any of this?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Mhm.
We use sex to validate ourselves. We
Mhm.
use women to validate ourselves in a lot of situations. And I would always say that nothing in a book or nothing I say applies to every single man. So
Right.
to say that in the beginning, it doesn't apply to every single black man, but we definitely use that to cover up self-esteem issues. We use the amount of women we can get to cover up identity issues. We use women to validate us in other areas where we seem to be what's the word I'm looking for, less than.
Mm-hmm.
We turn it's taught that the one way you can boost up your social standing, one way you can boost up your self-esteem is to turn to women, and that automatically puts you on a higher rank. But when we do that, what are we doing? We're misusing sex and we're misusing women because
Yeah.
we're really just using them as a pawn in our game to build our own self-esteem. We're using them as decorations to put on our jacket to say, I had sex with this many women because I was trying to validate myself. So,
Mm.
those are the things that we're taught, and
Right.
that's how we turn women into just objects. Where they're no longer a person with a name. They don't have a face. They don't have a brain. They're just a pair of breasts or a big butt or some hips.
Mm-hmm.
We get so programmed to look at our female counterparts in that way. So that's the whole goal of the book, is to explore that, but to
Mm-hmm.
also talk about how can we do better.
Right.
How can we do better? What do we need to teach our boys and our young men to help them avoid porn addiction, um,
Mm-hmm.
to help them avoid trying to live out some of these lyrics that we hear in our music,
Mm-hmm.
to help them to overcome sexual abuse, to help them to become more of an individual and not fall to peer pressure, because it's all those things that's in our society that influence our young men to act out sexually in unhealthy ways.
Mm. This is good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is some good information. Y'all gonna have to get this book. Oh my gosh, because baby, I don't want you to tell it all. We need to get some of these books sold. Oh my gosh. Wow. And it looks like this book is gonna have you doing some real self-reflecting. Because I
Yeah.
know that inner work, that healing, you always have to look at self and be accountable for what you have done. We know it. We know we have a lot of things that come from slavery and things that happen to our grandparents and parents. But at the end of the day, we still have to be accountable for what we do. We can't continue to keep pointing the finger at everybody else, for the things that we've done. You know what I'm saying? For the hearts we've broken or whatever. And I know a lot of times that it comes from things that have happened in the past, but we got to move on. We gotta move on and start being accountable and just want to it's just want to be better. Just say I want to do better. I want to be better. It's just that simple. I want to be better. I want to do better. What do I need to do? And it looks like this book is the answer, and I think men and women should read this book. I think that, so that women can get maybe a better understanding as well about men, because a lot of times we don't know what men go through unless you share it with us, or we have brothers, and sometimes your siblings ain't gonna tell you everything. Your boy cousins ain't gonna tell you everything. I was having a conversation the other day. We were talking about how men look at things differently. Okay, so I've talked to a few men who the babysitter, right? They may have been like 8 or 9, okay, 7, 8 or 9, and the babysitter was doing things with them, and really they were being molested.
Yeah,
they didn't think that. They're thinking it's cool, because this is an older woman dealing with them. You were I even heard like a 5-year-old, honestly. So you were being molested. So you going all these years, right? Carrying that around like that was cool.
Yeah.
but you really were molested, and you're wondering why you're having difficulties in relationships, right? And
Hmm.
why you're right. Can you talk about that briefly, Amy? Have you heard that story or?
I've heard of it, and it's also I wrote about it as well.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
one of the guys that I interviewed, I
Hmm.
speak about this in the book. Like we were having a group discussion, and he was talking about that exact thing. He was about 8 or 9 years old, and he was over at a friend's house, and the older sister called him into the room, and just gave him instructions: pull down your pants, take it out, put it inside me, and move around. And when he was telling his story, he was well into his 40s at this point. But he still seemed very confused of what was happening. And I had to tell this brother, like, yo, you were being molested. So and that's what you were saying is some of the stuff that we learn or we hear as black men when it comes to like molestation and sexual abuse. Like, oh, you were lucky,
Right.
you were advanced, or you're into older women, or older women are into you. So we use that to we use that to, I guess, champion those type of behaviors. But when the truth is, like, no, you weren't lucky, you weren't advanced, you were getting molested. and
Right.
and, and that will have some very traumatic impact on you as you develop in your life.
Mm.
You might end up copycatting some of those behaviors,
Mm.
what you was taught. So you were once molested, and you could become a molester at that point, or
Mm.
you might have some sexual identity issues because of what happened.
Hmm. Yep.
Because believe it or not, a lot of the molestations is same sex molestations. It's not always a older lady. It could be
Right.
an older uncle, or
Hmm.
create some sexual identity issues in you as you get older. So,
Yeah.
and the most scary thing about it is that when it comes to men, or I should say children, getting molested, it's gotten to the point where we have taught boys not to cry, not to hurt, not to express their feelings at such a scary level that some of these things that happen, it doesn't get reported. They don't tell anybody because
Right.
they feel like they're not supposed to hurt. They're not supposed to feel pain. They're not supposed to cry. They're supposed to be tough and be
Right.
strong. So they keep it to themselves.
Right.
But then they suffer later on down the line, and all the relationships that they try to enter as they get older also suffer because they
Mm.
never dealt with that level of trauma that happened when they were younger. So
Yep.
the like you were saying, the healing um, that men can get from this book is huge. Because I definitely go into how we use sex as therapy, how we
Yeah.
use sex as a coping mechanism, to
Yeah.
deal with anything,
Right.
depression, anxiety,
Mm.
whatever it might be. We are taught to turn to sex as the healing, opposed to looking for the real healing that we need.
Right. And this is an endless hole.
Hmm.
You steady feeling it, like feeling and it's steady draining out, pouring it
Hmm.
with what's draining out, pouring it, whatever you're doing, the porno, the women, whatever you're doing, going right now, hole and just pouring right out. And you're still
Yeah.
just standing there with a hole in your bucket,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's only a distraction. It only covers it up for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I've heard that when men, when you hold on to that sexual energy and you get to work, like you saying, you can write 4 or 5 books. You can do whatever you need to when you it's something spiritual about that too. Not having casual sex and having a bunch of sex. It's something spiritual. It's all spiritual anyway. You can't disconnect spiritual from anything because everything that we do
Mhm.
has spiritual essence to it. But
Yeah,
yeah, it makes them it gives them more strength and power, and like you said, the discipline and how you can get so much done and change your life by
mhm,
uh by withholding sex for a while.
yeah.
So
With,
yeah,
withholding, and even just being responsible with your
hmm
sexuality.
hmm
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Just, I think the biggest issue with what I call the sexual miseducation system is that we're taught to lie, to manipulate, to be dishonest, to cheat in order to get sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that hurts more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that destroys our community more than anything and destroys relationships.
Yes.
I truly believe that women understand women understand that men like to have sex and women enjoy having sex as well. But it's
Mm-hmm.
when you lie to get sex, when you manipulate, when you hurt, when you ghost people, when you cheat on people in order to get sex, that's where issues really come in. But that's, yeah, when you womanize and things of that nature, when you use people as objects, that's where the problem really comes in. But that's
Right.
exactly what the sexual miseducation system teaches us to do,
Right.
in terms of sex.
Right. And then the women respond, and then here we go. We got this vicious cycle.
Mm.
It's like it's time to stop. It's time to
Mhm.
stop. And it's time for us to stop. Look, I don't want to. I don't want to say. I don't want to talk about anything else. I want people to buy this book. I need to get me a copy for real, AB. I need a copy. I actually want to. We'll talk about it. I want to have this like advertised on when I have my shows. I want to have like your picture, I want to have it so people can see it, because this is going to be a game changer. Um and I'm into astrology, you guys. So this is the Aquarius age. So it's time for some things to change. It's time to know. We got to know. We got to know that we know that we know. It's time for a change. It's time for something new. We got to get rid of all the old. It's time for new. It's time for the new. So I'm excited for you and this book. And what's the name of it again?
It's the sexual miseducation of Black men in America. Right in the back. Hopefully, you can see it.
Yes,
So,
yes, I need you to repeat it, because this show is we're going to be on Global Hits Radio. We're going to be on Spotify, Apple. We're going to be all over the place, so they're going to be able to hear it and see it. Okay.
okay.
So yes. So one more time, the name of the book.
The sexual miseducation of Black men in America. The subtitle is actually Counter Conditioning Our View on Sex, Relationships, Women, and Ourselves.
Yes. And do you have a copy so you can hold it up?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. I love it. We need to get that thing needs to be sold out. That needs to be one of our new instruction manuals, in our community. I'm so happy. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that the universe, God, or whatever you prefer, decided to put that in your heart and download that into your soul, and you put it on paper and you put it out, because it's so important. We need it. It's time for a change. Again, I'm super excited for you. Before we go, AB, can you give us just a quick, I don't know, quote, a nugget, something that you like to just leave with the audience?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I'll say one that it has to do with the book, but it just has to do with what I'm passionate um, with, and that's relationships. Is I always tell people, in order to be in a healthy relationship, you have to be a healthy individual first. So that comes with anything, whether it's the way you manage your sexuality, it's the way you manage past trauma, if it's you need to develop some self-knowledge, if you need to develop yourself spiritually, whatever it might be, you have to become a healthy individual before you can even think you can be in a healthy relationship. So, I hope everyone seeks some health.
Yes, I love it. All right, so AB, let us know how we can get in touch with you and how we can purchase your book.
You can go to my website. It's scrolling down there, readyforrelationship.com. That number is the number 4, readyforrelationship.com. Or you can contact me on Facebook or on IG. On IG is the sexual miseducation of Black men, and on Facebook it's AB Bracewell, as you see scrolling down there. So, and the book is also on Amazon. And I recently just released the audio book. So the audio book is on Audible, it's on Amazon, and it's on Apple Music. So if you don't have the time to read, you can just download it and listen to it.
Yes. No excuses, ladies and gentlemen. No excuses. We gotta sell this book out. We need to get our copies. This is important. This is what we need so bad. Oh my gosh. And again, like I said, I'm so excited. I can just feel my fingertips is just they get numb. They're like twinkly. Like I'm so excited. This is gonna be game changer. I love it. I love it. And again, thank you, AB, for taking the time to be with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this was great. This was great. So before we go, I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch me on Global Hits Radio on Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And you can also catch me on Facebook on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. To catch the show. So I'm everywhere, y'all. It's no excuses, you guys. You can see me everywhere. Of course, I'm Instagram, ms_BJ Martin, Facebook, BJ Martin, website, www.IamMissBJMartin. Catch me. You can catch me. You ain't gotta catch me. You just DM me. DM me if you want to just talk about some things. And so that's it. Yeah. So again, you can catch me on Global Hits Radio. It's exciting. We got a nice radio station, good music, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get your good listening on. It's very diverse music. All right. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to join us on Sales and No Shells. Thank you again, AB. I will see you back. And remember, just like the sun, you are necessary. I love y'all. Peace. Greetings, beautiful ones. I am Miss BJ Martin. Make sure to join me Monday and Wednesday, twice a day at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. for Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. It's informational talk and more on Global Hits Radio. Make sure to check me out.
Just insanity for me to constantly care for that deep soul.